Senate District 34A. Brian Rains is kind enough to join us right now to talk about his campaign to join the Minnesota House. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you today?
All righty. Sorry about the mix-up. I'm glad you were able to give us a call here. Brian, I have to say I was in your district yesterday.
Yeah? Where were you at?
I was at the Crow Hassan Park, over the nature reserve over there. The northern part of that's in 34A, and that's where I was hiking around out there. Just absolutely spectacular.
It's a gorgeous area. It absolutely is. My kids and I enjoy it very much.
Oh, it had a really good time out there. I want to, if you don't mind me, I'll tell you what. I want to ask you a question about that trip up there and your thoughts on how things are in 34A in just a moment. But I want to give everyone a chance to find out exactly who is Brian Rains. Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm a father of two great kids that go to public school up in Rogers. I'm a lifelong Minnesotan, avid outdoorsman, third-generation tradesman, and like you, I'm a vet, and we're certainly not losers and suckers.
No, we're not. That one's not rested well with me. I don't know about you, but that one hasn't rested well with me.
No, that's not sitting well with me, and it's not sitting well with the people that I'm talking to.
No, well, and so, but I mean, this just happened. I mean, what was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I'm going to run for 34A?
A couple years ago, I met the incumbent while she was campaigning. I shook her hand at a parade, and I asked her two simple questions. I asked her how she feels about right-to-work laws, which she supports, and then I asked her about prevailing wage laws, and she opposes those. And as a tradesman, those are not the values that I believe in, and I don't believe those are Minnesota values.
It is remarkable that now we are at a point where you clearly can see that the economic and the anti-union policies of the Republican Party, I mean, we actually saw wages go down for 57% of Americans between 2016 and 2018, and it's only going to get worse under Republicans. Yet they at no point do they ever want to revisit and say maybe we were wrong about this, even though there's copious amounts of evidence, especially from the trade unions, that you need to have prevailing wage laws, and you can't have right to work. It's right to hire, right to fire by the corporation. Correct.
And these laws, they don't just weaken unions; they weaken the middle class. When you look at the I believe it's 26 states across the country that have right to work laws and weaken prevailing wage laws, the metrics of a successful society they drop off dramatically. There's higher teen pregnancies, higher suicide rates, so on and so forth. The way that these laws dismantle the fabric of a family and a middle class lifestyle, they move everyone towards the poverty line, below the poverty line, and they make a lot of people into working poor, and those aren't Minnesota values. And so for me, that was the catalyst to get into the race.
Well, and the worst part is that the conservatives have created this system will look at a job that used to be able to sustain a family of four. And now that person has to work a second job, and their spouse has to work 3 jobs so that they can make ends meet. And the mentality isn't the fact that they have tilted the playing field against you. It's that you're a lazy moocher and that you basically just need to work harder because, you're just not a good worker. And that's the hard part. And we're seeing story after story after story of people in this country today, in your district, in this state, who are basically working as hard as they can and not getting ahead. As a matter of fact, losing ground.
That's correct. And when I'm reaching out to voters and constituents, those are the stories that I'm hearing. I hear that more and more with every phone call, and every volunteer comes back with similar stories as well.
Let's talk. Your district it's basically the northwest corner of Hennepin County, right?
Yes, sir. It's pretty much the last district out of the metro.
Well, and one could make an argument. I mean, especially you get up towards Rogers there. It is kind of still it is the metro now. It is one of those. It's one of those districts where there's a clear dichotomy. You have built up areas. You have people that are going into the city and working there, but you also have a lot of ag and a lot of rural. Correct?
Absolutely. It's great in that aspect. Right next to the house, I've got the elementary school, and then there's a farm field. That's a perfect description of Rogers.
Well, and I can say this is because one of the things I've been doing is I've been visiting all these parks over throughout the metro area. It's so wonderful. I'm going up to Crow Hassan Park. The fact that you are so close to really pristine rural nature. I mean, that's there is a lot of great positives about that district.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, the park that you were at. My kids and I have been there. We've been hiking. We've been on the bike trails. Mm-hmm. There's fantastic off-leash dog parks not far from our house. It's one of the favorite areas of the metro for me.
I want to ask you something I noticed when I was driving around the district here, and this is something I think also an offshoot of Republican policy, is that I would go past a clumping of houses, and there would be one house that would be draped in Trump gear, but right next to it would be two houses for sale. And this is something I noticed this last week when I went out to Buffalo, and now I'm noticing it up when I was in your district and just south of your district. There definitely seems to be a exodus from these rural areas, and I think it has to do, considering how bad the ag sector has been. I think people, whether they can't make ends meet, or if they've just, their job's not there, there's no more markets for the crops. Needless to say, I'm seeing a lot of farms for sale when I go into rural Minnesota.
There are, and I think a lot of that comes from the pressure from the corporate farms pushing a lot of these family farms out of the area, but the number of neighborhoods, right, where you're seeing a lot of these Trump signs and so on and so forth, they're selling to developers, and the housing boom up in Rogers has been very significant.
Is it one of those things where it's bittersweet because if people stay in the district and they get into these more kind of suburban housing, they're still staying in the district, but I mean I think we're definitively saying goodbye. I mean, I went through the 80s. I'm an older guy. I went through the 80s. I remember when the beginning of the end of the family farm, where farms were being auctioned off left and right in the 1980s. And what we're seeing right now over in Wisconsin, two dairy farms a day since Trump taken office have shut down. In this country, you see, every time I go in the country, all I see is for sale, for sale, for sale, for sale. And trust me, I don't think farmer is a job title that a lot of people are searching out right now, especially when the margins are so low.
I agree with you on that. There are a lot of family farms going out of business. There are not very many people getting into it, and I don't think the industry is slanted towards the family farm anymore. It's more towards the corporate farm, and the other thing that we see, like I said earlier, I enjoy hunting and being in the outdoors. And there was a time where when I was growing up, I grew up down in Prior Lake. And we would hunt down in Farmington and so on and so forth, where we'd go up and we'd be able to knock on the farmers' doors and have that neighborly conversation and maybe go out and chase some birds. And we see a lot of that going away too. Yeah. It's really infringing on that community as well.
Yeah, you have to go find Farm Corp and see if they'll let you on, and they won't let you on generally. I agree with that. Yep. Let's talk about some other issues though, because once again, 34A is that dynamic kind of community. You're seeing. And by the way, Brian Rains joining us, Democrat of the day for today. Talk about the growth in regards to infrastructure and building. I mean, there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. And, you have a community there, and I have no doubt there's a lot of people that are pushed back saying we don't want to necessarily be a suburb of the Twin Cities, but that growth is coming one way or the other. How do you balance that and look for the best solution?
That's a great question. There has to be a component of affordable housing as well as the expansion of the neighborhoods. This area is growing. The bittersweet part of that is we see a lot of those family farms going away, but we're also seeing a number of folks coming in. We're seeing a lot of diversity in ages and income levels, and we're seeing a lot of racial diversity in the area. That's very enjoyable. That's welcome to see. I've made a lot of great connections in the area. There are a lot more Democrats up there. We've had a lot of fantastic outreach with people, and so in that aspect, I do think it's a lot of improvement. I like to see the folks from the cities coming out there, and I think when it comes to the infrastructure, as far as you were up there, and there's a lot of construction going on 94. Things are going really well up there. That's going great. I like to see the expansion. We're putting a lot of Minnesotans to work. There's a lot of opportunity up there.
And that's the other side of it too. Is growth can happen, and I understand some people are a little sore on it, but that's jobs and guaranteed jobs usually for 2-3 years. That's good money, and that's something that I think a lot of communities want to have. And there's a lot of communities, and frankly, there's a lot of districts that don't have that luxury. So it's good. I mean, I'd like to have someone in that office that's actually going to have a sustainable plan for the district, as opposed to just what do my benefactors want, that sort of thing. All right, so Brian, this is the point where I tell everyone how to help you out. Now, everyone listening to me, help your local Democrat. You're help your local House race, Senate race, great. If you're in a relatively safe district, after you've helped your local Democrat, go up and help Brian Raines. This is a winnable seat. This is in Hennepin County, northwestern part of the county, 34A. I'm presuming you have opportunities for volunteers and donations, correct, Brian?
Yes, sir, we do. Our website is rainesfor34a.com. That's RAINES. We've got, if you haven't used your PCR, we'd love to help you out with that. We've got opportunities for phone banking and anybody else that wants to volunteer. I would love any and all support. All of the social media is the same, Range for 34A, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or the Gram, Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Range for34a.com. That's RAINESFOR 34a.com. I'll link to all this a little bit later on. Brian Raines. Brian, thank you very much. I appreciate you being Democrat of the Day.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.